Welcome to Blade Banter. We're going to talk about specs, opinions, and discussions. This is the Tangram Vector. This is actually the budget knife from Kizer. Designer is Kim Ning. Over 20 years of experience in the industry, currently employed by Kizer Cutlery. So this is actually, I believe, their first button lock knife for this company, as well as, I believe, even for Kizer, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that, but definitely for Tangram. So first off, I didn't have this in the original unboxing when I got the shipment, but for this display, this type of presentation, this is probably the most beautiful, most put together display box that I've received so far, which is great. But at the time that I actually got the knife and I actually took it out of the box and actually handled it for the first time, the box, even though it was very pretty and very nice, I really hated this knife. I was ready to put it back in the box, ship it back off, because I didn't like the knife at all. That was a comparison to my CRKT, which has been my standard for button lock so far. So there's still some good things about this one, some good things about this one after having it for a while, but the initial impression, and I'll put in a little video of me trying to open that knife, and that was very discouraging, to say the least, as far as actually having this knife in hand. And that doesn't impress me very much. So as you see, it did loosen up quite a bit, so that is much improved for this knife itself. So I do appreciate that a great deal. It would great to have a really good knife in an ugly box than a really bad knife in a pretty box. But going after some of the specs on this one. So for a men's hand, as far as the glove size, this is kind of how it's going to fit in your hand if you are going to be looking into picking up this knife. So it is a fairly small knife for itself. So as you see here, it's going to be probably dropping that pinky finger off the edge of the handle here. That's for adult men. And adult female. So this one has the blade steel is Kudo 440. So this one actually is going to be fairly good for the Kudo steel. It's actually above 440 from what I could put together as far as online searches. CRKT had it listed for a Kudo Plus. There was another company that did a comparison for the Kudo steel and then also the Kudo Plus. So it comes out to be about the same thing for the blade. So it's about a 59 to 60 as far as the Rockwell scale, and actually is higher than the 440C and also an AUS 8. So that is going to be a little bit harder for that edge retention. So available now through Amazon. You can get it for $45 with Prime shipping. They did have it when I picked it up for $35.95 or something similar to that. So I did get it for a little bit less. So if you didn't want to wait around, you could probably pick it up later, or just go and get it for that $45 that's available as of recording this video. So some of the specs on it as far as weight goes, it's fairly good as far as the weight of the knife itself. So it doesn't feel too bulky in hand before weighing it, but when actually weighing it out, that is in grams, so 94 grams. Let's try the other unit of scale. We don't want fluid ounces. There you go. So 3.3 ounces in comparison to the other blade. 3.2 ounces. And then for the Kershaw dividend, 2.7. Another one I brought in for comparison just because I did do this little bubble effect on the blade with a little project with the boys. So started to use this knife a little bit more after doing that project, but for this knife, 1.2. So very light on that knife. And then extreme slicer. I'm not going to scare anybody for this type of knife as well. So one other thing that I've been using quite often is the Lyman pull gauge. I've been trying to incorporate this into some other tests. So trying to get that thing a little bit standardized as far as a way to determine, as far as information-wise, some information I can transfer to you folks so you can make a more accurate decision on things. So for this one, I'm just going to be doing to see basically how much weight is needed to actually open the blade. So you can kind of see here, I'm going to try and keep both in the shot here. So 1 pound, 10 ounces, 10.8 ounces. So I'm going to have to probably figure out some type of jig system or some type of mechanism that I can hold both of these and actually apply the same amount of weight consistently, because I am just doing a pull on it and I'm holding the knife with the other hand. So as far as consistency wise, I could definitely find something that's going to be a little bit more consistent in the, and it fell off of there, apologize for that. Try that one more time. So as you see, I mean, you could find something a little bit more consistent as far as the pull to be able to give you that. So 1.13 on that one. So it's pretty a low number for that. So it's going to be a pretty decent flipper for the information. So it does flip out with the thumb. It does flip out with the middle finger, kind of like the Spyderco. And then you can actually use the button lock itself. So I find out doing that a lot and trying to close it. So it's kind of playing a game to try and release the button quick enough to actually make it actually lock in place. So that's something that's a little bit, I guess, fun and annoying at the same time for this knife. I can actually get it to do that. Oh. So I can't really do it with that one, but that's why I like this one so much. It does that quite often, very quickly. So in comparison to size, we're looking at these blades here. As you can see, that's quite a bit larger as far as the blade size. Bring this in again. There's some of the sizes for it. Some of the good things about the knife, as far as the Tangram Vector, so some of the kind of the odd things about it, going back to the box, very nice display for the box. Doesn't really relate to the knife itself as far as quality, but it does as some wow factor when you first get the knife and unwrap it or unpackage it. The button lock mechanism is something that I still am enjoying, so I'm just trying to find some other ones with the button lock, and then I'm still looking at some other knives as well, so I'm not just going to only buy button locks, but right now that seems to be one that I really enjoy as far as an action. So action did smooth out a great deal, so it's just really something that you have to kind of work with, flip it open close quite often. I did add some lubricant to it. I did not take it apart yet to do any cleaning, for it, but that has been something that I've been doing to try and loosen up that action. And then, so very good lockup as well. So that's one thing that's different between the CRKT and the Tangram. The CRKT actually has a little bit of up and down as far as a actual noticeable. I'll try and get that into focus there. A very tiny bit. It is noticeable, so now in hand. And then so for the other one, and as far as up and down, you're not getting that with that. So even though it's about a 50% lockup for both knives, this one, the tolerance on the knife itself is quite a bit better. You can hopefully see also that there is some skeletonization on the inside of these liners to get you a little bit less on that weight as well. So this is aluminum scales, stainless steel liners, and then also skeletonized. So some of the cons about the knife. So out of the box, action was tight. Action, I did not like it. Again, I was ready to put this knife back in the box and ship it back out to Amazon because I really was disappointed in the way that it was flipping. So the button lock itself, the sound got better. So I'll probably put another link to that one, but the button itself got better as far as the sound goes. The little, don't like that sound. Before it was like a spring sound when it was like the spring was actually, I guess, going over each other or something like that. But that was one thing that I didn't like very much. And then the pocket screws, so something that's actually a hot spot. When taking this out of the pocket, so these screws are something that you would actually grab onto as you're probably taking it out. You could probably try and grab it a little bit differently, but it does add quite a bit of pressure on those two screw holes that actually add some indentation onto your finger. So that's one thing I don't really like about the pocket clip on this one. Dry in hand, you really, I've dropped this on the table once or twice and just messing with it because it actually fell out of my hand. So that wasn't something that I really appreciated about the finish on the knife itself. But overall, I did warm up to it quite a bit. So I will probably be keeping it. So there's a little bit more of a kind of a fit and finish feel as far as the mechanism to this than CRKT. CRKT is still extremely enjoyable. 3 ways to open the knife itself. But something about this one free falls, this one does not, and that adds a little bit to it. And it's a little bit more of a trial on your actual abilities and skills to open it up and open close it. So that adds a little bit of challenge to that. So as far as a buy, borrow, or avoid, I would probably borrow the knife because first thing out of the box, I really just wanted to return it as I brought it before. The action improved a great deal. There's a little bit, again, as far as a refinement feel to it. And this blade really does cut well. So this does have, seems like a little bit of a recurve to it as far as the blade itself. So that might be a little bit more difficult for resharpening side, but the knife does cut very well. That's one thing that's really good about it. So as far as avoiding it, if you want to, if you don't want to really mess with the knife, if you don't want to kind of fondle it for a while, figure out all the things that are going on with it, open and close it numerous times to actually get the action to work, then I'll probably stay away from it. Because if you want something that's right out of the box, super smooth, go with something with some type of IKBS, something that would actually free fall, something that's going to be a little bit smoother on the action. But this takes a lot of work. Now, so you got to really want this to work to be able to enjoy it. But once you get it past that point, then it should get better over time, where things are breaking in further and getting better. So that's kind of the recommendation. Either borrow or avoid it. If you really like it and some of the specs, some of the things that you're looking at work out well, pick it up. But I would say kind of more borrow or avoid for this knife. But do appreciate time. Let me know what you think, and thanks again.